Today we're looking at Robert Oster's Melon Tea. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now Robert Oster's Melon Tea is a brown ink, which is weird because I would have thought green going in, but it was brown. Now to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a D-like alpha with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I have learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that this is a very complex ink. We see pink across the bottom, we see some reds, we do see a little bit of brown, and then we see this very bright blue across the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I put it into water. And there's really no difference between the two except that line across the bottom of pink is a little more dark and there. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles really well. It turns from about an extra fine to a fine, absolutely normal stuff. Totally readable. Not a problem there. Use it as a note taker. Feel confident you'd be able to read what's there. Water lifted all the darker tones of the ink, but none of the lighter tones of the ink. Interestingly, I expected some of the colors from the chromatography to come up, but they didn't. They just left much lighter versions of this brown. Now, Pen Flush did everything you would want. If water doesn't do it, you really want Pen Flush to be able to do it, and this does. With only 30 seconds on the paper, it is almost entirely gone. You easily see the white of the paper, easily see an outline of where the dot was. Bleach, the 1/3 bleach solution, you should not need to use this to get this from your pen, but it obliterated it. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Melon Tea has a viscosity of 2.4, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Melon Tea has an average dry time of 22 seconds, making it a little longer than normal. But this is a very nice brown, and it could absolutely be worth it. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It's not really giving us a lot of shading with the 1.1. The extra fine has a slightly lighter tone, just a hair lighter tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some shading, much more noticeable when we look at the word brown. In the word brown, it's a noticeably lighter word than quick. And it starts very light and works its way darker again and then turns to a mid-tone. So it's very nice. Fox starts dark, gets light, gets dark again. So it's nice shading here with the extra fine. 14 seconds to dry. Now the medium has the same tones that we got with the extra fine. It had no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer quite a bit of shading, more shading than I'm seeing in the extra fine. Quick, starts dark, gets a little mid-tone, gets very dark. Brown starts lighter and gets darker. Fox starts lighter and gets darker. Jumps starts lighter, gets dark, gets light again, gets dark again. 21 seconds to dry. We even see the shading in the 21. The scrubby for both show us a lot of color variation. We did see a lot of color variation. I'm seeing much more of it in person, there we go, than you get to see on camera. So it's nice color variation. And the smear test, you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. And I think it looks the best here. While Tomoe River's not my favorite of papers, I think it shows the best here. Now, other than the scrubby, where we get a little bleed, but I'm putting it on stupid thick, we get no bleeding, we do get ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread. It does have halo on most of it. Because it's darker, it's a little harder to see, but you have to look when you really look at it, that's what's making it kind of jump to me. It's very nice. It's got no sheen and no shade here. The extra fine, noticeably lighter tone, beautiful brown. It's got this like kind of, and I don't see it anywhere in anything else. I'm looking back at the chromatography and not seeing it, but I see this like greenish undertone that doesn't show up anywhere. I don't know. But it's got this like greenish undertone. It's beautiful here. The extra fine is no feather spread, halo sheen, beautiful shading in here. Brown starts really dark, gets lighter, keeping some of that like greenish. Gets light and very nice. Fox is light to dark to mid to dark. Beautiful stuff. 23 seconds to dry. Totally worth 23 seconds to me. Medium, a slightly darker tone. Not as dark as the 1.1. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have shading. We really see it in Fox, where it's very light at the top of the F and the bottom of the F, but the hoop is very dark. Jump starts light, gets dark, goes to mid-tone, goes dark again. Beautiful stuff. 42 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation, and we got it. And the smear test, you wouldn't be able to recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I'm looking at the color. There is a noticeable color difference from the Rhodia to the Clairefontaine, which is weird because if I'm not mistaken, they're owned by the same company, but the papers are made different. The 1.1 is a noticeably lighter tone, way lighter tone, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, great shading all the way through this ink. Quick, starts dark, gets light, gets dark again at the end. Brown starts dark and gets light. Fox starts light and gets dark. Beautiful stuff. 11 seconds to dry. Medium becomes a darker tone. That darker tone makes it a little harder to spot some of the shading that does go on with this ink. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does have shading, like I said, like you see it in jumps, starts light and gets very dark. The middle part, or the end part of the F into O, is much lighter on Fox. So it is very nice when it's there. Beautiful stuff. 18 seconds to dry. The tone of this is the same tone that I got with the 1.1. The scrubby for the extra fine and the medium both show us color variation. The medium shows us not as much, and we didn't get as much. We got a lot, just like the scrubby says for the extra fine. And the smear test, I believe you can recover this if you smeared it. The yellow Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. We didn't expect it. It is still Rhodia paper. What happens to the color of this ink? And it's interesting, while the tone really maintains its same sort of brown, in person, I see a little bit more in all three of them of that greenish something. It's a green something there, and it's really nice. I normally prefer my, like red browns, but this one, it's got this like kind of a green sort of thing about it that is really neat. So the 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, almost no shading to notice. The O looks a little lighter than the rest of all of the 1.1 writing, and that's all that I see there. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone with no feather spread, halo sheen, and really nice shading, just like we got with the white paper. The Q and the K and quick are much darker than the rest. The B in brown is much darker than the rest. Over is a much lighter word than the rest of the writing, and 11 seconds to dry. Medium becomes much darker, just like the 1.1. With the medium, we get no feather spread, halo sheen, and I see no shading with the medium writing. We lost it on the yellow paper. 18 seconds to dry. When we look at the scrubbies, the extra fine shows us some color variation, the medium shows us none, and that is exactly what we got in the writing sample. And the smear test, you'd probably be able to recover this. So TWSBI notebook paper, no bleeding. We do get a little bit of ghosting. It is a slightly thinner paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. I don't like this brown on this paper. The extra fine is a lighter tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen. We lose the shading on this paper. Anybody that's used it, it's a little bit more absorbent. 11 seconds to dry. The medium gives us the same tone that we got with the extra fine. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. Again, it's lost here. 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any. In the smear test, you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. 28-pound premium copy paper. Now, it completely bled through in the scrubby, which is, it's going on stupid thick. But other than that, it did really well. We get no bleed. We get no ghosting. The medium at the top has no feather spread, no halo, sheen, or shade. I don't like this brown on this paper. I think it looks very dull here, but it wouldn't stop me from using that at work, if that makes any sense. If this is the paper I have at work, I would go ahead and use it. I wouldn't worry. It's still a nice brown, just not my favorite of browns for that. It's the only reason this wouldn't be my number one. The extra fine, a lighter tone than we got in the medium, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. 1 second to dry. The scrubby showed us a little bit of color variation, but we did not get any in the writing. And you can't smear this ink. It dries so fast, there is no smear. And that is all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Melon Tea, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Krishna's Dhaanu Udhak. Dhaance Udhak. I know I'm butchering how to say that, but that is a great yellow brown. And that brown really ties it together, and that nice light that comes with some of the yellow, fantastic. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So, before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Melon Tea? I like brown inks. I do like them a lot. It's true. This is a great brown ink. It's got this kind of greenish undertone that's going on that's really neat. And if I did not already have a brown ink that I really prefer using, this would be the brown ink that I use. This one's amazing. Thanks for watching.